Hello everybody, it's Friday today. We came really close last night to completing the first triangle. We really did. If I hadn't had to get up earlier, I definitely would have stayed and finished that. So that is very much on track for today. Now, the only down point we're going to have today is that there is a man outside the front of my house working on my neighbour's garden. And to make a long story short, he was my... I'm going to make it sound really posh. He was my gardener. Well, he is my gardener. I'm lazy. I'm really crap at gardening. So I pay a man, not a lot of money admittedly, but I pay a man who comes and does my garden every blue moon to keep it tidy. He does tend to forget. But one thing he does do is he comes during the summer he came every week to do my neighbours, whether there was something to do or not. And he parks in my driveway to do it, which annoys the dogs. Now, I'm going to place a really good solid bet that he will come and ring my doorbell while I'm trying to scream. And if he does, I will go and answer it, and I may have to go and open my gate, and then he'll possibly, with any luck, do the grass in my back garden, which he meant to do about a month ago and forgot. So I kind of need him to do it, but you will also possibly hear a lot of a lawnmower if he does. So we shall get to that in a bit. I've also made something since we last met. And I've made a little diagram to show the progress we have made. Now, at the moment, well, it's kind of bare because we're on our first triangle. But I have made a selection of triangles to denote how far along in the project we've got, and basically, unless the internet dies here and now, we're going to complete the first triangle today, and we will fill in the first triangle, and we will see it reflected in the picture. So I think it's time to get making. So let's do this. So I've also found a few more cloths to aid in the bobbin containment scenario. So this is where we got to yesterday. I know what I didn't do. Oh look, I haven't set that. There we go. So this is where we were. It's a little crowded over here, as we can see. But today, because we finished the rose ground, we need to try and shove some of these around here. In fact, I'm going to use this cloth here, like this, so that I can pile some of these up here. Get them out of the way a little bit. Because, well, we don't need you for a while. So now they're out the way, we want these guys. Take out the stick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yay! So you stay out the way, and we'll steal a pin from back here for the moment. As you can see, very crowded, not ideal, but there we go. I did add a pair. Joining from rose ground, it's much easier to think you've gone wrong, and we're in that it feels wrong stage that we had before. We are running out of room a little bit. Now we're getting to the bottom of the triangle. But we will survive. Because that is a thing. I swear it feels like any moment he's going to ring that doorbell. Just to be annoying. Pin this down because it keeps lifting up just to be annoying. So, in case you're wondering, not that there's anything to see, but here is the little magic state in the bottom right hand corner, and as you can see we have completed no triangle. Later on we will colour it in a bit when we've completed one, and it will show that we've done one. Hence it's not going to be on screen, you know, all the time because, well, frankly, there's not a lot to look at the moment. and there won't be until we've got a few squares in. But I thought we'd keep track, set it up so that we don't lose track of what we're doing. It's 2 pins. Right, let's unpin you. Take you off. Nope, that's not right. Screw that one up, Kimber. Right. So, over. There you go. So, bottom left-hand corner, you're out. Bottom right-hand corner, rather. I am capable of telling them apart, usually. You're out. You get a pin. This is when we get concerned whether we got it right or not. I think we're good, but you know, till we get to that final pin in the corner, there's always scope for doubt. Guess that just is. You're out. It's gonna work out, people. Freaking Alexa and her notifications. Told her not to, but she does it anyway. It scares the crap out of me. Because it'll be some dude who's probably long since dead has allegedly released some new music that I don't need to hear or want to hear, more to the point. You're gone, you're in the corner. And then there were 2. So, now, let's get all of you. Not that that's a lot of you at the moment, but all of you can go on the stick. Stick. Like that. means I can slide you up like that, and you're all out of order already. Never mind. Now we have to try and do the last bit with loads of bobbins trying to get in on the action that are not needed. Seriously, go away. In fact, I'm going to have to tilt it a bit, because there's just no way I can scrunch them round enough, because I haven't got any more sticks. Need more stick. Do you know, I said I was going to order more sticks, didn't I? And I haven't yet. I need to order more sticks. Because now I need you. You are the fragments of that. So, I have this stick, which means I can take a big pile of you. I'm not quite worried whether that's an even number or not. Let's quickly check. Oh, you're even, so 2, 2, 2, 2. You can go in the pile then, just to make it an even number. And we'll pile you up a bit. Out the way. There. There's a bit more room. Right. We can straighten up a little bit then. For now. Obviously, by the time we get to the bottom, I'll be having a bit of a stress. But for now, we're good. Let's twist you in advance so I don't forget. And now we stonk down to the final corner. On the home straight, guys. It's a bit like watching a slug race, but you know. Much as you can stonk. That last pin felt very fat. It's the same as all the others. It wasn't even 2. Spotted a pin up that should have been down. Not quite sure how I saw that because I can't see the pins usually, so. Slight funkiness back there. Possibly another mistake. Never mind. Never mind. We know there will be some. That's an idiot. Oh, it's starting to get a bit warmer. Time to take off jumper. I'll need it later. Bit devoid of dog. Awfully suspicious. You up a little, maybe. It adds in a couple of minutes, just as a heads up. Don't worry, there's no way I'm going to get to the corner in time for the ads, so you won't miss anything. You moved. Come on. You're not pet. You're the pet. You have to go back. Okay, it's over. Time to do a bit more pushing down the side. As I've explained before, part of the reason for pushing the pins down is so that I don't grab them, because, well, that can be a thing. easy to do this bottom corner. When we twist it round, we'll be able to move the pad up and down. So we'll have that comes with its own problems, because obviously this pile would then effectively fall off the back. So do you win or do you lose? It's not always quite the blessing that it sounds. But it is, we only have 3 more rows to go, so while it's getting harder, and obviously more bobbins per row, we are technically very, very near the end. Very, very near the end. And are you? Yes, you are on the right one. I kind of want to move my table 4 inches forward, but that's a logistical nightmare. Never mind. I might do that in a minute when we get to the end of the triangle. And we celebrate our gloriousness that is one of many. This one's got caught round a pin. Thank you. I could move you a bit more. It's not a lot, but every little bit counts. You just bend. you two are next. Near my pin supply, my friends. Space. You up there, you out the way. I know I'm not done with them yet, but I needed the space before my marbles ran away. Round. Release the hordes that is this pack of bobbins that have already successfully tried to tangle. Last row, my friends. Last row of the triangle. And then we start all over again. Yeah. I think at this point of everything, it's when you start again and you repeat exactly what you've just done. The enthusiasm does wane just a little bit. But at the same time, when you've finished a square and you take it off and you look at it and it's a thing of beauty, we're happy. So, you win some, you lose some. Now, is it actually you, or is it you? I'm not comfortable with this because this is the worker pair. I stole a pin 2 seconds ago. Apparently not. I'll find it with my arm. That's why. I don't know. Yeah, alright, Shay. I thought this one was flat on the wrong side, which is why grabbing the bobbins and scooping them up wasn't working so well. Scoop. Pile. Oh, sit in the pile, try not to fall out. Thank you. It's like reverse Jenga, all this bobbin faffing. Going to use new pins from my pot to fill in this last few. So that's 5. Four. 3. caught on a pin. Just looks wonky. Because you're so short. Keep it longer. And you have definitely caught on something. What have you caught on? What are you caught round? There you go. Last pin in the triangle. Hallelujah. All hail Satan, or whatever it, or your choice of whatever. Right. So, and the triangle is done. Hallelujah. Right. And I kid you not, we have a complete triangle. It's not very visible underneath the 86 paws bobbins, especially the stick that's poking in there. But we have a complete bobbin. A complete triangle. Time for a photoette, I think. Because, well, it is that time. So, what do we do now? There's the pin. I knew I'd find it. Oh, look. We start again. Now, clearly, all the bobbins are in my way, and we know that these bobbins are not going to want to get out of the way easily. So what do? Well, remember I pushed all those pins down? She says, actually, I need to push some pins down. I'm going to turn it back for a minute. But I'm going to poke down all the edge pins. And if they're not perfectly straight, they're evil to get hold of. Which is why you then bend them like that one. That's going to be fun later. Pop you in. Another bent one. So easy to bend these. They're so fragile. It is ridiculous. And before you ask, I am not exactly being rough here. They're just that flimsy. All the rest can come out. This is a little bit of a leap of faith because obviously normally we do not push the pins down. But we do for this, because what I will do is I might leave some of the nearer pins in, literally last couple of rows, just to keep the stability. But I can now take out great swathes of pins. And reveal even more mistakes. I mean, bits of the triangle. See, this is possibly the amount of pins that I actually only do need to leave in while doing the work. The problem is it is a little leap of faith. And as we all know with faith, it can let you down sometimes. When you put your trust in something and it fails for some reason. So it is easier and better to leave in some safety rope, which is why I'm going to leave some of these pins in. I'm going to try and trim them down as much as I can, but I am going to leave some of these pins in quite a few pins in, to be honest, at this point. But I'm going to push them down with my fat finger. No, that's a bad idea. That just bent a load, so that's a really stupid idea. I used to push them down when they were the fatter pins. So clearly, that's not a plan with these pins, because even though they're really quite sharp and all the rest of it, their skinniness, making them as strong as a piece of tissue paper, means they bend. So let's spend a lot of time poking down pins. Actually, just because I'm going to put some pins back into. Why are you putting pins back in, Liz? Well, because it's not an OCD thing, but it's an OCD thing, I think, in that sense, in that I'd rather have a straight line, so they're all matching, because, so if I put a couple of pins in, there aren't any holes. You see, you, my friend, do not need to be there. You are one too many, but my friend here needs one, so you can go in there to make that tiny. That's in 1 minute and a half. Let's stonk down here. I'm trying to fall out the bobbin holder. Ta-da! We have smart looking triangle. Zoom in a bit and you can see it's a smart looking triangle. Obviously the slight shading here is the pins, but we've completed the triangle, and now, because the pins aren't there, we can do a second triangle. So, let's grab that pin. Don't think there was another pin. Yes, there is. There's one there. There we go. And we should be now able. You're just not going to go, are you? Fine. I'll take the cloth out and we'll try. This is the bit that I was not looking forward to, is trying to keep all of the bobbins in their bit and slide. I mean, to be honest, they're all supposed to be in their thing. There's a couple caught on a pin somewhere. See, this is where the bobbin holders get annoying, because the bobbins do really try and escape out of it. And there's loose ones underneath, which I need to come out. But let's move you that way briefly. Let's try and move you up. And you up. And Lord knows where you came from. I'm assuming here, seeing as most of you look like you've fallen out. That looks like a rat's nest of doom. So, you're fairly neat and tidy. You've escaped from under there. But some of you are from the other side. So you need to go underneath. But you're not underneath all of them, are you? Because you escaped through the middle. There's an extra pin up there. That doesn't help. Definitely could do with much stronger, clampier elastic. Let's see what mess you have for me, because you actually are from the other pack. So you are from here somewhere. You just got caught on a pin. So you're around about here somewhere. Right. Push you around. You've all come out, but this is why I don't like these quite so much, because they just don't hold them as snug as I would like. And you're stuck on a pin or 6. There we go. They're all stuck on a bit of a pin, so hence I am just lifting them all up this way for a moment, so that I can untangle them from the pins. That's you. Which leaves you lot slightly tangled in the pins. It is surprising how much you flatten all these pins, so you run your finger over it to make sure that they're all really quite flush, and that, you know, you've done everything in your power to not have pins to catch upon. They'll find some. They always do. So let's put a cloth down. Actually, for some reason I like them in half. I should probably cut some more of these cloths in half, so I get 2 cloths for the price of 1. But for now, cloth down, and we'll place you up and on the top. Preferably this is against the pins, so that they are fairly pin free. You can go on top. round, and you can go on top and make a big ugly mound, because we won't be using you for ages. And you come round, and you need to stay in the thing, so we push you and you come to the back of the mound. And same is true with you. You come round and to the big part at the back. This is why I get anxious about pens and bobbins, because holy hell, seriously, look at this. Look at the pile. I mean, you can't see it from end on, and it's a bit jiggery pokery because I haven't really got anything I can get a photo from my phone to my PC without jiggery pokery, because, well, I just haven't set it up to do so, really, because I don't really need to very often, although could be useful. So you're going to be used sooner, but you can still go out the way, because frankly we've got these ones to use. There's a bobbin under here. Now we need to make them longer, because it's up there and there's all this space, so time to I mean, this is probably more accurately how long you should have your bobbins, but when there isn't space and, you know, you're going to fall off the bottom, what can you do? I mean, if you look, these are against the edge. Actually, you can't really see. If I nudge it to the side slightly, you know, this is the edge of the cushion, so it was very, very much on the edge. And I can zoom out a bit more. There you go. It was very much on the edge of the pillow, so I couldn't work with them much longer where they were. But now we have space. And don't get me wrong, long bobbins have blessings and curses too, because it means they can tangle more, and they will. And we will have to check each and every one, even though we were only just using it, because we don't want it to be wrong any more than it will be, because, you know, we already know that mistakes are made. But should have taken a picture before I covered it up with a pile of bobbins and I pushed all the bins down, really, shouldn't I? Silly girl. And I'm doing all of that now. Dear Lord, no. Look at that pile. I'm not touching that pile for weeks. Well, hopefully, it probably won't be a week. Hopefully, it will be days. But there we go. So. Right. Deep breath of celebration, for we have turned to the corner. I do really, really want to angle this, so I'm going to move that slightly and move that slightly. There you go. That's better. So, we are at the corner. And we need to first pin, hurrah! And once I've found the hole, which of course is right at the edge of my spot of vision, which I can't see anymore. Let's push that down a bit too far. What I will do is I will quietly save that here. Save as. No, not save as. I need export to, where was it? Why can't I see the thing? I know it's there. Oh, for goodness sake. There it is. Yes, I do. Let's. Now, the question is... See? Look! It all updated! Go me! Look, we've completed a triangle. Yeah, small victories, darlings. Small victories. But we have updated our state of play to show that we have, in fact, a whole thing. Isn't that just spectacular? So I just realised something. I don't like that. I have changed my mind. I have changed my mind already. So what have I changed my mind about? Let me see if I can explain this so it makes sense. In the transitioning of the threads from last triangle to new triangle, I chose to do a half stitch. But this leaves the threads uncrossed when they start the second part of the stitch. One is not going to do that. One is going to do it properly. So, you should be crossed. So, that's not right. Don't be doing that now. There we go. That doesn't feel right either. It's because it wasn't. Yes, it was. You see, I thought it looked a bit odd, but it actually doesn't. It's just that it's so far away. actually, just for a laugh, let's take a picture of my monumental pile of bobbins, because they are pretty monumental. And I know we're going to see plenty more of them, but hey, let's scare the world with a picture of monumental pile of bobbins. So, because this kind of justifies why my brain suffers from bobbin anxiety, is what I would call it. Because it is quite a daunting pile of bobbins. And as I say, this is for a 6-inch square, which is why the idea of doing this in one piece, while it would look great, it would look glorious, it would be a thing of beauty and wonder, I'd be in the funny house by, you know, pretty much by the end of the weekend, if not sooner. So, I mean, hats off to ladies of old, but of course, they didn't necessarily work it in one piece. And the Chantilly people, who were renowned for working big lace shawls, didn't make them in one piece. They're not, you know, they were not signing up for the funny farm. So, but they did perfect and had people whose sole purpose it was to join them. That's a bit defeating, isn't it? Just sewing everyone else's stuff together. I mean, you know, it's very important, but people aren't going to view you half as important. It's a bit like the cleaner in the building. Everyone undervalues the cleaner in the building because no one wants to work in a crappy, unclean building, but at the same time they're the lowest paid and will be crapped on by absolutely pretty much everybody because, well, they're the cleaner. I've always been nice to cleaners because, well, if you're nice to them, it's funny, they do you favours. Oh, do you need that taken to the bin as you're preparing to take a, you know, an empty cup or something? And you kind of go, yeah, it's okay. And they go, no, me do. And they run off with it. And you're like, oh, thank you. Because you're nice to them, they will do silly things like that. We had one at my place of work, and he was a lovely bloke. His English was very poor. He was Polish, but his English was terrible. But at the same time, he had a heart bigger than everyone else's put together. And I was always nice to him, and, you know, there was one day he looked really sad, and I was trying to talk to him to find out what was wrong. And I never really found out what was wrong. But he remembered forevermore that I tried to be kind to him when he was not feeling up to it. And he was always so helpful. He'd kind of go, Liz, is done? And it'll be like, yeah, I'll take it out later. Because it'd be raining or something, and I don't want to take loads of empty cardboard boxes out in the rain because, well, they'll just melt. And he was like, no. And he'd do it all for me. And we all thought he was leaving at one point because he came round one day with a big bag of sweets. And everybody got a sweet. And it was kind of like, oh, thank you very much. And we couldn't quite understand why he was handing out sweets, so hence we thought he was leaving. Turned out, Polish people don't really celebrate their birthday. They celebrate the day the saint they're named after was sainted or something. It's their name day. And it was his name day, and it was really weird because, you know, I'd seen him around for many years and he'd never done it before, and he never did it again, probably because it cost him a fortune. But he must have bought everyone on site that he saw a sweet, and it was just so kind of him. And he, you know, it was very sad when work decided that he was no longer the right nationality to work there, which was very sad. Because he was the best guy they ever had. Absolutely the best guy. Then, of course, someone cast a load of rumours saying he'd been doing naughty stuff, and it's like, nah, not him, mate, not him. He was proper good people, he was. And I'm not saying that, you know, good people can't do bad and that, you know, people can't hide it, but he didn't have it in him. He really didn't. It was just a way to make people who'd made the decision feel better, I think. That was one of the saddest things in my career to see. was watching someone who was incredibly good at their job go. Just because... I always wonder what happened to him. It's funny how you do that. There are people that you met along your career, and they may not have made or broken your career. They may have been almost irrelevant to your career, but there are some people who you look back and you kind of go, I really wonder what happened to them. Where did they end up? And LinkedIn is not always helpful. So yes, here we are, triangle number 2. You're going to have to go off the edge. Well, you won't tangle if you're off the edge, that's for sure. So there you go. You go hide off the edge a bit. End. So I mentioned a couple of times that these are thinner pins, and I chose to use thinner pins because obviously the big pins and the little pins, I mean, what's the difference? Well, the big pins have a 0.65mm spike, and these ones have, according to this, a ½ millimetre. So the answer is 0.15 of a millimetre, which frankly is not a lot. But when it comes to the holes made in the lace, the shaft of fat pin versus thin pin is actually quite significantly different. So if I find a dark bit and I put 2 pins next to each other, and I zoom in on these pins as much as I can. Why is that as dark as a badger's butthole? Hang on. Let's put my brown square on, because the brown square is reasonably coloured. If I put them near to each other, of course it's off the camera, there you go, and we'll try and focus on those a little bit better. You can see even there, the one on the right is the fat pin, so it is beefier. Now, in terms of working with it, it is a thing of glory. Frankly, it is a beautiful pin to work with. It does not bend because you breathed on it funny, because I have bent a lot of these flimsy little pins. They've got bigger heads, so it's easier to get hold of, It's easier to pick one out of the pot, and frankly it's easier all round. But obviously the thin one leaves a smaller hole, and it's a bit like, if you look at the cloth that this is on, if I stab it with a knitting needle, I'm going to leave a big hole. If the smaller the thing I stab it with, the smaller the hole. So if I kind of stab, that doesn't really make much of a hole because, you know, the way it's worked. But clearly these two make very different, that's blurry, but they make very different levels of stabbiness. And I decided that I wanted the finer, daintier look to it, because after all, you know, this is a thing for life. So I decided we'd go with the flimsy, nasty pins. A decision that I'm not going to say I'm regretting, but I wish the pins were made of a little bit kind of sturdier stuff. Because it is quite infuriating that they bend so easily. To the point I think I bent some just kind of brushing the bobbins to tension them, so it's, you know, it's a little too soft, but they do make great sized holes. So, and we are here for making a thing of glory that we will look at forever. Oh look, head starting in a minute and a half. Okay. So, it should be you two. Lengthening. Yes, there is a dog barking outside. It's outside, it's allowed to do that. Don't think it's next door's dog though. She doesn't sound like that. Next door's dog loves me. She absolutely adores me. Which is kind of funny. To me, anyway. She doesn't like women, apparently, except for me. But part of the reason dogs like me is because I don't go, ew, stop licking my face. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even with these two, occasionally I have to kind of go, quit it, I need to breathe. But it's how they say hello. You know, you don't punch people in the face because you know, they're saying hello and you don't like it. And we tend to do that with dogs, so I let them. Two pins. just realised I need to point much more at the top and zoom out a bit, really. There you go. Should have said, people. People, if you don't see what I'm doing, shout at me. For goodness sake. Because, of course, I'm concentrating on what I'm doing and not so much on what you can see because, well, I'm trying not to mess it up. But there we go. Oh, I need to sit upright for a couple of seconds. I know it's only 90 minutes in, but, you know, bear with me one moment, you know. Oh, take my glasses off. Just do a quick bit of doom scrolling, because we do that. Someone posted on one of the weaving groups and she goes, "Oh, I don't think I could have got any closer." She was doing some weaving and her warp connection was only like 3 or 4 inches from the back of her headals, and it was all, look, you know, it is quite close, to be fair. And it was like, oh darling, that's not even close. And I posted mine, and I was only doing, I think it was an 8 shaft pattern on a 12 shaft limb, so there were actual headals left over from before on the back 4 shafts. And in the picture, you can actually see that the warp is so close, it is pushing in those unused back shaft headals. And it's kind of like, that's close. And by the way, at the front, it was just as bad. I was determined to get as much out of it as I could. So, let me do my post. Let me post the picture of turning the corner. Facebook, what's wrong with you? I'm clicking on the bit to type in it. Oh, screw you then. Thank you. Click on the what's on your mind thing, and it was just going click, yeah. No, I want to type in it. Click, yeah. What? So let's. Why is it? I'm sure I'm not the only one who does this. You type, you look where you're pushing your finger. Now, your finger compared to the letter you're placing is generally 2 letters wide, and it always seems to pick not the one you wanted. Oh, seriously, since when's that got a B in it? Or an H in it? Goodness sake. I feel better for that. Oh, and so does my back. More to the point. So, I apologise for that, but I thought I'd post that we've turned the corner and a picture of my monumental pile of bobbins and let my back chill out a little bit. Because, of course, I was going to take my painkillers, but guess who didn't? And if you guessed me, you'd be right, because I forgot. Because I'm a douche. It's very deja vu because, of course, was it Friday or Saturday we started the other one, so. But Shows when you're not fighting spangles. Oh, for goodness sake! This. What part of? If I have to tell him one more frigging time. He pretty much does this every week. Rings me. Normally, of course, what part of do not disturb? Of course, he's on my don't contact me while I'm on do not disturb in case of emergencies, which is why it rang. It's important you can always and I swear that guy's going to come ring my doorbell any second. Not the same guy. Ping. Okay. He forgot. I'm going to send him a calendar meeting to tell him that between at least 2 and 4, I am busy. And it's often longer than between 2 and 4, but it's at least 2 and 4. I know it's only another 20 minutes, but we're still good. So. shunt you over a little bit. Just. Ooh, just a little bit. Ooh, a little bit more. There we go. Right. I can sing, I just can't sing quietly. Or not that quietly. I'm not really that high. Oh, Amy! Russ does not need you singing at him. He really doesn't. That cost a little too much. That sounds like my front garden. Seriously, my front garden does not need cutting. No, it's next door's grass. Just sounds like my front garden. Their garden certainly doesn't need cutting. I'm sure he'll come and tell me all about it. Hello, Rory. What do you want? Yes, you look very cute. You do. Yes, you do. Oh, you need a hug. Hang on. Dog has interrupted. There we go. That's better. Oh, Rory, my friend, you really, really, really do need your claws done. Unfortunately, he won't let me, or pretty much anybody else, so. Which is, again, part of the reason I wear a jumper all year round, is it gives me a layer of fur. Ooh! I have a party of 9. Hello, welcome to my stream of everything. I apologise that Nightbot has refused your emotes. I will have words with it later. Nightbot is somewhat overpowering at the moment. It doesn't like too many emotes, but thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. So hello to you. So yes, you find me having just turned the corner on my one of many. Do you want to know how many? This is how many triangles. I've done a quarter of the square. I work in a triangle shape. Do you want to know how many I've done? 1. And those represent all the other ones that I will need to do. So I'm kind of at the start of my quest. Ah, Naughty Cat suggested me. That's nice of them. Hello. Hello, Jack. I know. Gigi Jack. Oh, I'm terrible. I'm dyslexic, so if I learn your name, I do most strongly apologise. I've also got to squint across because, well, obviously I'm sitting at my lace pillow and not really at my computer, so it is further away. But it's great to see you. Wow. I'm really surprised. Yes, Naughty Cat has been here a few times, and we've had many a discussion because the macrame stroke rope twisting that they do has very similar trends to lace making in a lot of ways. We just have bobbins on the end to hold the strings, so it makes for interesting conversation. So please feel free to tell me about all the things that you lot get up to, and ask as many questions as you like, and I will do my best to answer them, although I am no god. Yes, Portuguese people do a lot of lace making, and this is technically torchon lace making, which I've got a feeling was British, but lace making is very much around the world, and these are actually more Spanish style bobbins, although obviously you're not Spanish, but it is a more related kind of trend. A lot of Mediterranean, that's a good word for it, Mediterranean laces are more, you make a thin stick, so like these zigzags that I've got going down, you would make that and then make like little legs that spire out and joined. Cuenda de Boleros. Yes, I can believe that. I should point out I had to have 2 goes at taking English as my GCSE when they first did GCSEs. Thank you for that, dogs. Thank you very much. I am dyslexic and I am not a linguist in any shape or form. After all, I struggle to do the one that I speak every day. And yet they still made me do another language. I did German and I pretty much sucked at that too. So, and that was a long time ago. So yes, but lace making is very popular in some areas, and in fact, more so I think than it probably was almost in its heyday. It's funny how crafting is now purely a hobby for a lot of people. Back in the day, obviously, crafting was much more of an essential because it was your job. You did it to make money. And I'm just checking where everything's coming from to make sure I don't mess this up, because mistakes are really easy to make. Especially, well, with lots of thin, tiny threads, frankly. So, let's have a look. You're definitely from there. You're also from there. You two would be next. So, let's put you over there. You under there for a minute. It's, you know, back in sort of like 1600s, the lace making industry was an essential way of making money. And while Mrs. Lord of the Manor and Rich and Expensive was the only one who had some, because, well, it's not a very fast growing hobby, until they industrialised it, obviously. But it's not a fast growing craft. You know, you can't achieve much in I would say that it's quite realistic that one triangle will take me a week. And I've got 72 of them to do. So let's not dwell on that one quite so much, because, you know, but the principle of it is that, you know, Mrs. Toff, the bobbin got sent to bobbin jail. Yeah, it did a bit. You know, Mrs. Expensive Lord and Mighty would have had lace. The normal people did not, because they couldn't afford it. But it was the normal people, of course, who made it. Whereas, of course, it's often depicted that, you know, Lady whatever in her fancy house would be doing embroidery, lace making, whatever. But, she, you know, she would probably sit there and she'd probably do the whole kind of... Let me pin this up a sec. Actually, let's do this. You can almost imagine her with her cup of tea going, oh, that might be a bit much for me. Oh, I'm not really sure. Maybe I can manage another one. And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, it was done very much because, you know, she was trained on how to do lady things. And, you know, it is, but the predominance of lace was done by the poorer people. And obviously people kind of, when the rich went on holiday and, you know, travelled to the sea and, oh, I saw a different style, and sort of lace in itself almost got reinvented in various places because, of course, we didn't have the internet to learn from. And, you know, everywhere has a style of lace, but the principles of it are the same. Each and every single one of them, everything is made from one of two moves. And they might call it different. Some places like Italy, I think, call a pair of bobbins a bobbin, just to be slightly confusing, rather than a pair, because, well, there are two of them, so there's a pair of them. But in essence, everybody makes their lace using very similar moves. It's a bit like knitting. In knitting, realistically, you poke through the front or the back, you wrap, you pull, done. Now, there might be more wraps, there might be a couple of, you know, you might go through more than one loop, you might reseat the stitch so that it's twisted, but in essence, you know, poke, wrap, pull applies to knitting and crochet. And with lace making, you either cross or twist. Cross goes left to right, and twist goes right to left. And we all do it. And the stitches, of course, can have different names in different places, which is not too surprising. But the actual kind of end result is lace around the world has familiarity and significant differences. So this is torchon lace. Now, as I say, I think it's semi-British started. Sounds kind of Somerset-y, to be honest, but it's you know, but at the same time, there's Bucks Point lace, which is definitely British. Oops, sorry for ads, people. So, there we go. So yeah, Bucks Point lace is similar moves, generally done with really, really, really fine yarn. I mean, this stuff's thin enough, but theirs is usually twice as thin as this. But what they tend to do is they do lots of picots and flowers, and it's not very me, and so that was not a plan, in my humble opinion. So here we are. There's Honiton, that's definitely a Somerset sounding name. There's Bedfordshire lace, again that's very British sounding, seeing as Bedfordshire's over here. Then there's Binch, which is French, and they're all really similar to an extent, but as I say, it's like everything. It's similar, but there are, 90% of it will be the same, and then there'll be the 10% that isn't. And there's lots of ones that I probably can't pronounce, but there's Russian, Milanese, and something else are very, very similar, which is, like I said, where you make, like, say, the zigzag, and you spread out kind of tendrils to join up with other bits for stability. They all work on that kind of principle, which, to be honest, is quite tempting for lace curtain, because you do a squiggly squiggle with some joiny bits, and it looks slightly chaotic, but at the same time it's open and interesting. But I did a kind of Celtic knot thing that was in that style, and it wasn't a very well designed one, and it put me off slightly because it didn't have enough joiny bits to give it stability, so it was almost unusable. Unless you put it behind a frame on a wall, you couldn't have used this thing for anything. My dogs are doing strange things. They were making very odd noises. So yeah, I stuck with my plan of doing this in torsion lace, and here we are. So we are now at the cloth stitch stage, stonking down this side, and I have to consider what it is I need to achieve. Because you are my working pair, and yet you have to go that way. I believe that the best way to do this, because I want this pair to be my working pair still, because I've loaded it up so that we don't run out. Yes, I don't know as much about the history of lace as perhaps I should. I do have a monumental pile of books, which I probably could learn. Thank you, dog, for that. The dog just bashed the table. You are clumsy, lady. I have 2 dogs. They're equally annoying. So yes, there is a lot of history to lace, because obviously it's been around a while. And because every kind of region made their own, they've each got their own history. Whereas, to be honest, knitting is kind of knitting. There's a few how to hold your needles, different styles, but fundamentally, knitting is knitting. Crochet is crochet. Lace is one of the few things that truly does start anew, much like language, I guess, for its own region. So there is a lot to learn, and I am not going to pretend I am the great and good and bountiful most experienced lace maker in the world. I am not. I did some when I was really little, so I'm talking kind of maybe 10 at the latest. I then didn't touch any really until a few months ago, so I am not the most experienced lace maker in the history of the world, and hence I'm contemplating how to achieve this, because I want this pair to come in, but if I don't do it right... Thank you for that. It's gonna look funny. So, what's the best way to achieve this? Because if I do it the way that's that becomes logical, so I would mix these with these and these would cross. But I would then put a pin in. But I want these to move across to this pair, but then I wouldn't get to cover my pin. So I need to brain sol this out slightly. I think this is the simple answer. And I'm sure Naughty Celt would happily tell you of the other week when this section of cloth stitch is not hard. But what did make my brain hurt a lot, and I mean actual meltdown of brain cells, and frankly I'm surprised there were not tears. It was that much of a brain melt. I'm going to try and trap some of these because we don't need these for a while. So if I shunt you on the table a bit and then try and poke the stick through. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. That seems to be a good number. No, come back. Pull my bit of elastic. Try to trap the bobbins, which is so much easier said than done. Come on, trap the bobbins. There you go. You can now slide round over there because we don't need you for ages. and I mean quite a few ages, you can all chunk out the way a little bit. Right. Gives a bit more of a working area, and I need 2 of you. So yes, thank you. Do come again. You are very much welcome, and I shall return follow you and see what you get up to when I'm not streaming. So because that'll be interesting. So yes, I do. So yes, I had a lot of fun when counting bobbins while doing this became almost an obsession, because when you're working one direction, you're adding bobbins safe. So for example, in this, I am working to the left. So every time I go to the left, I pick up a pair of bobbins. And when I get to the right hand side, I have to drop a pair of bobbins to make it move diagonally over. But the corners were messing me up. But also, as I do this and I get to the widest point, there will be a lot of bobbins. Not too many bobbins, but a lot of bobbins. And generally, as it works out, there are 6 bobbins, roughly, pairs of bobbins working in this direction. However, there are 5 going in the other, and because you discard before you pick up, there's actually only 4. And so your brain tends to think that you've screwed up, which, you know, it can be a thing, because you do. And you then start second guessing as to whether you've messed it up or not. And so I ended up drawing it out and writing out these kind of complicated things, because of course sometimes you pin some and then you chuck them out, or so you add one and then pin, so it'd be like plus 1 pin equals, you know, 5, and then take one at the end, so now then and yeah, it was not good for my sanity. I lost many brain cells to the great puzzle on that day. So we are distinctly frazzled from that. But I have a really ugly picture where I wrote all of this down that I can refer to in times of need for when I question myself again, because we're not working all that out again. That is not a thing to be doing. That is just not a thing to be doing. So we are not going there again in a hurry. Not. It feels like I don't have enough bobbins. See, I'm off already, for goodness sake. Feels like I'm off already. You are not the bobbin I'm after. You are the bobbin I'm after. You can go back in there and penance. Alright. Thank you, longer. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. This will give us 6. But this one comes straight out again, which gives us 5. But then there'll be 6 when we get to the other side. 5, 6. No, this is right. This is right. We are not going down this story again. We will have faith that the process works. We will not be going down this problem again. At this point, you are done for the moment. You can go lurk over there or something. Go and lurk, that's what you do best. Although, one of the 3 bobbins, that's because one of you was escaped. Okay. So let's put you back in here. You're a bit short. That's probably why. Make you a bit longer. There you go. They just don't stay in these clamp things very well. In fact, they don't do anything very well, to be honest. Let's put you two back in there and prop you up. Right. Oh, piss off. Just piss off. Where's an elastic band? Chunky lace can be a thing. There is no reason why lace is not chunky. And in fact, did I not show you the metal fences that someone's done using lace? Just screw you for a minute. Right, I just need them out of the way and not to join in the party. So lace can be done with much thicker threads, but obviously little bobbins don't tend to hold quite so well. So let's tilt this down a little bit so you can see a bit more of what I'm doing with my bobbins, but not too much because you don't need to see in my lap because, well, you don't. So there is nothing that means you can't use thicker threads and do lace making techniques. So, for example, one thing that you could do is using fine string. Let's go with string rather than rope, but string. You could do, say, this pattern and then attach it with the same machine because you're lazy to a duvet cover and make like a lace decorated bedspread. But you might only actually do one square. Now, obviously, the making of that would be difficult because of the sheer size of it. But if you used string, you could do something very similar to that. Although, obviously, I think actually that would probably end up a bit more ropey. But if you used kind of normal garden string sized string, you would be in a position that you could make, I don't know, this square would end up being, say, 2 foot wide, rather than 6 inches. And so, yes, you can. It's just a question of bothering, I think, is possibly more accurate. People don't tend to, although I think I mentioned before, part of the bolster cushion theory was that lots of people are making scarves on them, but they're doing it out of stuff that's really not a lot thicker than this. I mean, it's thicker, but it's not, you know, it's not knitting wool. So, and part of me is kind of going, and they're making them all out of spiders, which, as we know, I have a real thing about lace spiders. So it's kind of 90% a hole and not a lot of, well, it's not going to keep you warm now, is it? So to me, I mean, it's very much a decorative scarf only, but people do make scarves. So it is distinctly a possibility to use substantially thicker stuff. And it's not wrong to do so. I didn't add one. Douchebag. Did not add my extra bobbins. There. See? Paying attention. So yes, it's very much possible. It's just that I guess it's like a lot of things. There is this element of the better lace maker you are, the finer the thread that you work with. Snobbery that kind of goes on. Whereas I only chose to use thinner thread because of not wanting to resize my square too much, but also I wanted a net curtain, so I want it to be light. Otherwise, And as I think I did mention, when the bolster cushion arrives, which I was hoping would be this week and it didn't arrive, feeling a bit grumpy, sore subject, because a lot of things that I ordered have not seemingly dispatched yet, and I'm feeling out of pocket, because of course I paid for them. So when I get the bolster cushion of great... Yes, and I think that's a lot of things, is lace is, well, delicate and frankly quite useless. And I think that is a very common view, and of course, that's because that's what it was. Again, the finer threads you work with, the more expensive, because it's harder to get the finer threads back then. And so Lady Toff in her in her expensive house, the finer and more intricate the lace, the more expensive and the longer it would have taken to make. So, a lot of these things are very much synonymous with lace making. But it's a bit like arm knitting. There's no, arm knitting's still knitting, although it's a bit more like crochet, but because you're using your arms. But it is that kind of... It's still knitting. It's just that people didn't waste the fleece on things like arm knitting, because for those who have always wanted one of those big fluffy arm knitted blankets, beware. You can knit with your arms, yes. Google arm knitting. But if you get... I haven't got any to hand, it's all in the other room and under a pile of crap. But when you get fleece, you generally get kind of a chunk of fleece like this, and then you extend out tiny chunks of it to make your yarn. You can arguably work with it as it stands. Now, it has no real strength, and people arm knit with it to make blankets. Now, the problem with these blankets in the long run is, A, that the fleece was not really held together because you need the twist to hold it together. And second, that it pills up like nothing else on this planet because, well, it's just a big pile of fluff. And as a result of being just a big pile of fluff, it tends to look very secondhand very quickly. So they are beautiful, but not for long. And you can't really wash them because it'll just turn into a solid mat of distraction. So you have to hand wash it in the bath. You can't spin it. You must lay it out flat. You've got to treat it like, royal princess in a pea kind of thing. And so it really is not... they do look spectacular and they are beautifully fluffy and warm. Pretty much the first time you use them, and the rest after that it's downhill. So, like everything, you can. People have arm knit with rope, for example, or crochet in argument. With your arms, you can do it through your hands. If you ever watch a weaver chain up their warp, they effectively crochet with their hand. They reach through and they grab and pull a loop. Reach through the loop, pulling out a strand to make a new loop. So they chain up. That's all you do with crochet. You just have a hook. Well, you use your hand because you can grab with it because it's bigger, right? And so people can make nets and things and do. So all of these things can scale up. It's just, as a generic rule, back in the day, people didn't because, well, they did it a different way. To be honest, nail binding, I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to say it. Nail binding, the thing where you use the funny kind of large wooden needle, is very much like lace. You just, instead of taking this on a bobbin, you use a needle. A large wooden needle, and do it with much bigger threads. And that's generally a lot of how they used to make fishing nets. It's, there is an awful lot of commonality between these things. So yeah. Right, just checking I haven't, screwed it up. Because we discovered a few bobbins yesterday when we were looking back on some of the revealed triangle of now finishedness. Yeah. Disappointing. Some of them, I Lord knows what happened to it. So, some of it's not clear how I successfully managed to mess up. Sometimes it was you forgot to twist a pair. That's kind of obvious. But to be honest, it wasn't too bad. It's still in the running for being a usable square, so it's not like, it's destined for the bin once we get to the other end. So, it's... That's not right. And add to. So yes, there was... I have made faux pas. I'm sure I will make more faux pas. After all, I've got 71 more triangles to go, so there's plenty of time and opportunity for that. I can't really unveil the triangle because, well, there's this monster pile of bobbins currently sitting upon it. However, I have already posted it on my Instagram and Threads and whatever. I will post it on Blue Sky later. I've signed up for Blue Sky. Why not? Because that seems to be a popular replacement for Twitter. And although I was never really a Twitter fan, it seems kind of Twitter without a load of the crap. We all know that Reddit has turned into kind of the gossip factory of the world, and the quality of Reddit has gone downhill over the years, but it has gone at a slow decline. Twitter, kind of even when it started, because you could only have 125 characters, was a little odd, because it was kind of the first of its kind. I mean, I know MySpace was a thing and a whole pile of other things, but as a whole, posting your tweet and tweeting, hi, I'm off to breakfast, and, no one cared. And if you did care, why? Just seriously, why? So Twitter always struck me as a slightly odd environment. But over the years, they've allowed you to add links and pictures and things. And so, but in the since Lord Elon Musk took over it and did a few crazy things that he's rather well known for doing, it's kind of gone off the rails a little bit. And frankly, it makes Reddit look like a sane place. They have rocketed past and are now the, crazy house. So, good luck to you on Twitter. I do have sympathy for people on Twitter. It's not necessarily directly their fault, shall we call it? But at the same time, it is the crazy house on the internet at the moment. I haven't been posting there because although I am slightly crazy, I'm not that crazy. Or maybe I am that crazy, but I'm really trying not to be. But I did sign up for Blue Sky, apparently made by the guy who originally made Twitter. So, which makes it a little bit odd. So what? You sold it to Twitter? You sold Twitter to Elon Musk and started up another one? What? In fact, just fancied the challenge, huh? Yeah. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yes, I am half expecting a man to ring my door any moment. Extra pin. And no, stop doing that, stupid woman. One, two, three, four, five. So yes. Pokey stick. That's a bit better. So that is the great cloth stitch start completed. So we're doing really well today. We did the end of the previous triangle. We've done the start of the beginning one, and it's only 2.5 hours. That's pretty good for us. But I will need to do dog things. Speaking of dog things, oh, there they are. One's giving me the evil eye. They're kind of yin-yanged a little on the dog bed. The other's behind my table. Oh, one's moving. I mentioned dog, and I looked at you. It was the look, wasn't it? Yes. Oh, little one. I'll have to phone Trophy and see what you wanted. Yes. My phone call was apparently about the dogs, so we shall have to see what they wanted. I know roughly what they wanted. because you need to go for your yearly stab. And you love your yearly stab ever so much, don't you? Because we usually get Rory's claws cut and we laugh at him. Yeah. So, what do I do next? Well, this indeed is the question. One thing I will do is that, because you now need to go out, and there should be 3 pairs here, and there are. I'm actually going to do this. It kind of goes against the grain of what we did last time, but I'm actually going to do this because if I now cross those and do these 3 pins here, I won't get confused when we come back as to which pair should be coming out or not, because they will already have gone. Pair stuck under me now. There we go. Right. So, all of you, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We know that, as a generic rule, 7 pairs of bobbins to a stick is a good number. I mean, they don't stay in it and they get all kind of bunched up, but we can get rid of you rather a lot. Now, we can... Yes, it probably would. Polyester is not usually the medium. It is usually cotton or linen or silk for the very expensively capable. However, lots of people, especially beginners, do use polyester because, well, you can go on Amazon and buy thread. So why not? You know, again, an awful lot of these things is graph snobbery. Is the, oh, one must use linen. This should probably be linen. And ideally, I would have done this in linen, because linen will last very long. It will get softer and nicer in age rather than skankier as it gets older. But I couldn't find a decent amount of linen yarn. I call it yarn for the want of a better word. String, whatever. String, threads. It's all the same thing, just slightly different size of the same kind of principle, to be honest. So I could find some kind of beigey grey, i.e. dirty looking yarn, and I just thought, if I made a net curtain of that, it's going to look dirty morning, noon and night. Now, I am not the tidiest clean freak in the history of the world. I really am not. I'm kind of a bit of a hoarder almost, but I don't want to walk past it looking like it's being used to kind of, you know, as a doormat for a week. So I couldn't bring myself to use that. I felt I had to use white because, well, we all agree that net curtains are white, and as white, not mostly white or almost white, white was only the only stuff I could find was cotton it is. So yes, this is cotton. It means I can boil wash it if I want, which is great, but at the same time I'd have preferred linen just as a oh, fluorescent yellow, Jesus. I don't really do colour. Everything in my world is a shade of beige, including half my food, to be honest. A friend of mine once pointed out that all my food is beige. Now, that's not entirely true, because I like pizzas and I might be having pizza for tea. I will not confirm or deny that. Actually, probably won't be. I'll probably be having a burger, but because it's takeout night, it's Friday. But favourite, if nearly every single meal has got an excess of potato, stroke pasta, stroke bread, stroke, it's always white, stroke, beige. It's very rare that my food by default will contain. I like chicken, so everything's kind of beige. I'm even into a little bit of white fish. Oh, excitement from the dog there. So I don't know. Beige is much more my colour. To be honest, I could have gone for beige if I'd found a nice beige. But then it wouldn't show up on the wretched square, and we'll be back to square one with that, to be honest. So to be fair, I think we've gone down the right path. I'm not quite as insane as I could be. I've got a really nice beige. I'm looking at it now. 8/4 cotton, which is ridiculously chunkier than this. And I think when I do the whole kind of bolster pillow argument thing, that might be the size of thread that I go for, because I'm currently looking at 2 white cones, a black one and a beige one. Don't ask. In this room, I've got my warping, let's call it shelves, because they've all got sprungs on them, so I can put the cones on. And the idea is for either mass warp board or primarily for sectional warping. So it's got room for, I think it's 50 something cones. So but it's in here, and it's kind of in the middle of the floor, actually. Well, not quite in the middle of the floor. It's towards an edge, but it's kind of in the middle of the way. So it is quite easy for me to see it, because, well, it's a 4.5 foot by 5 foot bookshelf. You can't miss it. And so the dogs were running around it. I think they've already broken a couple of spokes, but I really can live. When it came, it was a friggin' expensive thing. I bought it from a well-known weaving manufacturer, and when I got it, none of the spokes fitted. And I kind of wrote to them and went, "These spokes don't fit." And they went, "Well, what size are they?" And I was kind of like, seriously? So I got out my micrometer measuring thingy that I oddly do own, and went, "Well, it's so big." And they went, "Oh, they're the wrong side." And I went, "Well, they're the ones you sent me. They're the ones that came in the back." "Oh, well, you need these." And I kind of went, "Oh, well, yeah, I can get those off Amazon." They went, "Oh, that's good." And that was the end of the ticket. There was no apology for the fact that I spent the best part of 400 and something pounds on what is realistically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 bits of wood with 2 hinges and a pile of spokes. I'm sorry, but surely you should be sorry that your sent thing was incorrect. They weren't even sorry. I mean, maybe sending replacements could be complicated because they're not by default in England, but at least say you were sorry. Gone off that manufacturer a little bit. So anyone wants to know, AVL. Just saying. So I was very disappointed with that, because weaving accessories are ridiculously expensive. If I say to you a large picture frame with bits of broom handle poking out of it, and that is exactly what it is, somewhere in the region of £200. For 4 bits of wood kind of glued together, and you have to put the broom handle in. They do, of course, pre-cut the broom handle to like 6-inch stumps for you, but quite often they don't fit in the holes either. You have to sand each of the holes, and for the amount of work you do, and they want £200. Everything with weaving is horrendously expensive for, frankly, a bunch of 2x4 and not even a few nails. It's usually just glued together. My dog's going nut. I'm gonna... Amy! Enough! So yes, I'm going to take a bit of a break so I can have tea and do dog things. And I will be back later. Those of you who are able to join me, I'm thinking round about the 7 to 8 o'clock mark. It will depend on how quickly I eat food and can do dog things and get comfortable and set up for round 2. But here we are. We are good for that. Well, and that's the thing, Nautica. I think one of the worst things is if you, for the sake of a couple of... I mean, they are... I'm not going to say they're cheap tools. So if you have a drill press and to make straight holes in your wood, which is kind of a fundamental requirement. I mean, the drill press is not a cheap thing. But if you're then going to knock out, 500-600 plus, it works out as almost pence per unit. So there's no reason for it to be 500-600 quid. As I say, these bookshelves, seriously, yeah, at best 12 pieces of wood. I may have miscounted that. 6 pieces. Yeah, 12 pieces of wood. 2 hinges to join effectively 2 bookshelves together so they can clamshells shut. And some holes drilled in each of the bookshelves to put the spokey through that didn't fit. £500? Seriously? I mean, it's not like mahogany or anything. It's pine. It's, cheap stuff. It's not MDF or whatever, but some of it is. It could be laminated MDF for all we know. A lot of it is people get away with, as you say, charging quite a lot for, well, as we've discussed, bobbin. This bobbin was less than £1. But you can go on eBay and find people asking £30 per bobbin. No one in their right mind is going to pay £30 a bobbin unless there is something properly special about it. If Queen Victoria signed it or, something along those lines. Yeah, 30 quid for that would be quite a steal. But you wouldn't then use it. There are a lot of things that, if I tell you that my weaving loom was the best part of nearly £8,000, but for my £8,000, I got a thing the size of a Land Rover. Admittedly, I had to put it together, and believe me, that was harder than it sounds. As I was kind of post-operation with a 15-inch scar down my front that was not allowed to lift, bend, or... Yeah, that was fun. I swear the doorbell's going to go any moment. But I did kind of... I felt like I got my money's worth because of the complexity of what it can do. Now, frankly, it was a pile of wood for me to put together. They don't put it together, dismantle it, and then ship it to you. It is a pile of, we need 28 of these and 5 of those and 2 of the others. And it is sometimes very off-putting just how much people do... No, and like you, I do not have £500-600 to be spending on something that doesn't really do a lot. And so I have occasionally splashed out, like I bought these shelves, and I really regret that purchase. I bought a band loom that was a floor-based one, which I was really quite pleased about the idea. I would actually almost swear that you've got to be insane to use it. It is the most... You cannot sit comfortably at it because you have to sit to the side of it, but you want to sit... Sorry, you have to sit in front of it, but you want to sit to the side of it because you want the work in front of you, not sideways on. It would be a bit like me trying to do my lace almost upside down. It kind of doesn't feel right, and technically it can work, and I suppose you get used to it, but it was not a thing. And that wasn't cheap either, and that was, a few lumps of wood and a bit of string. And it literally was no more than that. And so, too much of it, and I think some of it is because... Nearly all of this now is done as a hobby. It is done by people who have got time. I told you the doorbell. I will be back later, and we'll catch you up between 7 and 8. So that's 2-3 hours time. See you later.